The discipline of iterating an offer is narrower than most coaches think. Narrower in a way that produces a more coherent document, not a more diluted one. One data point doesn't trigger a rewrite. The wrong kind of feedback doesn't trigger a revision at all. Here's the four-step protocol that separates element feedback from buyer fit feedback and gets the offer to testable, not perfect. Here's what typically happens after someone shares their offer draft with a buyer contact. The buyer says something like, "I'm not sure I'd pay that much," or "I don't really understand what coaching is." The coach goes back and rewrites the entire thing. One data point, full restart. That's not iteration, and it produces an offer that's less coherent, not more. There's a better discipline. Two failure modes in iteration. Over-iteration. Constant rewrites based on individual feedback until the offer loses its shape. Started coherent. 4 rewrites later, it tries to speak to everyone and speaks to no one. Under-iteration. Treating the first draft as final because changing it is uncomfortable. Usually shows up as telling yourself the offer just needs more time in the market. The discipline is in between. 4 steps. The iteration protocol. Step 1, receive the feedback. Write it down. Don't respond yet. Step 2, map it to the 6 elements. Which element is the buyer confused about or pushing back on? Step 3, make one change. Revise the element the feedback targets. One element, one change, not a rewrite. Step 4, test the revision with a second buyer contact. Same question. Does this describe something you'd consider buying? If the revision resolved the confusion, keep it. If the second contact is confused by something different, run the protocol again from step 1. The critical move in step 2. Distinguish element feedback from buyer fit feedback. A buyer who says, "I'm not sure about the commitment level," that's element 3, engagement structure. Possibly element 2, outcome specificity. Revise those. A buyer who says, "I wouldn't pay that," that's element 5, investment. But it's also a buyer fit question. Were they ever going to be the right buyer at any price? Distinguish feedback that reveals a problem in your document from feedback that reveals a problem in the buyer fit. One calls for a revision, the other calls for a different contact. The Module 12 boundary. The offer you're iterating here enters Module 12 as a working draft. In Module 12, final polish, integration with the discovery call script, and submission of the full signature artifact pack for instructor review. The satisfactory or revised feedback happens there, not here. Module 3's job. Build a coherent working draft. Put it in front of 1 or 2 real humans. Make one targeted revision per feedback cycle. Get it to testable, not to perfect. Module 3 Milestone Check. By the end of this unit, you should have a 1-page offer draft with 6 elements. Feedback from at least 1 buyer interview contact from Module 2. That feedback mapped to the 6-element framework, and at least 1 targeted revision made. That draft is ready to carry to Module 12. If you haven't shared it with anyone yet, that's the work for this week, not Module 4. You have an offer. You have an engagement structure. You have the pricing math behind it. The next question is how the right buyers find out you exist. And that conversation requires some honesty about channels. Module 4 is where we go.